He's back.
All right, here we go. Hello, everybody. Jason Moore.
Brandon Cornett.
We decided, we've been talking about this for a little while, probably for at least a year, 18 months. Brandon talked about putting together a little show to video to put online for everybody to laugh at and talk about. So we finally decided to sit down and get it done. One of the things, is it should be fun. We're gonna probably poke some fun at each other, some of our buddies. Also hopefully get some people talking and explain a few things as we update some rankings throughout the year.
I guess for anybody who doesn't know, this would be the Notorious Ranger, and I would be Dutch on Kentucky wrestling. So I think the show itself should be fun. I think people are probably going to laugh. Some people are probably going to hate it. But I think the ideal is getting Kentucky excited about wrestling. I know the rankings, that it's kind of a running thing that, oh, this isn't, the rankings don't matter, but you know, it seems like a lot of people are interested in something that doesn't really matter. So we thought a breakdown of the preseason would be kind of fun and talk about last season. And this is the first show, so take it easy on us, and we'll see if we can make it a little better next time.
And along those lines, we're just kind of making this up as we go. We got my phone here set up to record, and we just threw a few things together. So we're not pros at this. We don't have any paid professional video people. So
and we have some critics behind you that you can't see. So
yeah, we're doing this in the barn here, our Kentucky Extreme Workout place. So if you hear some background noise, it's kids maybe working out, maybe just goofing off. Okay, with that, just a couple little things about rankings in general. First, as much as everybody wants to believe it, I know when every mom and dad pulls up the rankings, they immediately pinpoint their kid on the paper. But believe it or not, when we do make updates, we're not focused on little Johnny Smith. We're looking at hundreds and hundreds of kids around the state and trying to guess what weights people are going to be at, and in the season trying to look at some results and figure out where people should go. So things are definitely not personal, and we try to be as objective as possible and try to have some logic when putting one guy ahead of another. But but with that, there's not any specific rules. So as soon as you set a rule and say this is always going to happen, then there's going to be some exception to that because of this. You always have A beat B, B beat C, C beat A, blah, 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 all sorts of things. So it's never perfect. We try to have a consistent process, but I'm sure you can always find little exceptions, but things just are the way they are.
I think based on the rankings that came out, we took state placement, common opponent, head-to-head. There was a few circumstances where a guy had beat another guy, or these two wrestlers have never wrestled, and obviously we had to make a decision. I will tell you that sometimes we don't always agree, and he has final say. So, all right,
one last little thing I'll add. This guy came straight from work, so he didn't today, but most of the time we'll probably be in here, be all sweaty, and probably try to get a good lift in right before we videotape so we look all pumped up. But so he didn't get to be pumped up today. Okay, I guess on to more serious stuff. Real quick, just a quick look at last year's rankings. So that August 19th, so almost, it is exactly a year ago, posted a preseason version of the rankings, and just kind of look back and figure out, well, how good of a job was it last year, to get an idea, are we going to completely blow it again? I actually was pretty surprised. 8 of the state champs were correct. 2 of the misses were ones that I guaranteed everybody in the state missed. One was Brandon Johnson. Nobody thought he was going to wrestle last year, and he shows up and just walks through the state tournament.
I think he wrestled for a week, and I think he was on the mat for, I don't know, 38 seconds or something. Just ridiculous. Just an absolute athlete. And I think there was a story behind him wrestling, something with his dad. I can't think of it, but it was ridiculous. So good job to him. Good luck. I think he's actually on scholarship for football. So he was wrestling just kind of for the fun of it. So unbelievable kid.
So one of the 6 misses was Brandon Johnson. Another one was Dominic Lampy. So I guarantee everybody would have missed that one. He would have been able to wrestle. Say very, very high likelihood he would have been the state champ. A couple guys we had out of the wrong weight class. Cole Dodd we had at 182, and that tough mess, he grew and moved up to 195 to be the state champ. McIntosh we had actually up at 195, and then the Oldham County lineup, all those guys started cutting a bunch of weight, and so he was down at 170 to be the state champ. So there are 4. Probably the 2 that really were true misses. We picked Andrew Ackley to be the state champ at 152, and our buddy Ben Barton pulled that one out, and I think Ben has forgiven me for that. He's my buddy. We spent a lot of time in Fargo together, so I think he's forgiven me for picking against him. And then the one, probably the worst miss of the whole thing last year was Jordan Blanton. He definitely proved us wrong. I think he started the year at ranked 7th and ended up being the state champ. So it's always going to be those guys. As I was kind of looking through as well, there's 1 or 2 guys in every weight class that kind of come out of nowhere and make the podium and get a medal, and that's good. That's the way it's supposed to happen, guys. Looking at this and getting motivated by it, by not being ranked, and working their tail off and getting on the podium. Anything from last year you want?
Not bad. I think the Lampy missing was huge. I think there was a lot of people shuffling around weight, trying to get away from Lampy, and when all of a sudden, you know, a week before Regions he's out, you know, there were some changes there. So I think that had a pretty big effect on the season, that happening. So I also believe when we're talking about guys that we missed on, I think Smallwood would probably come to mind. Smallwood, I think, lost first round and wrestled all the way back to 3rd.
Amazing.
So he, unbelievable job. So good job, Derek. I think
Okay.
probably each weight, I guess.
With
right?
that, let's jump into this year and run through a quick chat about each weight class.
I think we start with 106. Rank 1 would be Tylen Tucker. Adam Bender, number 2, Mikey Klein, 3, and Blake Roth, 4. I think out of those top 4 guys, Tylen, I'm curious if he gets to 106. I see Tylen quite a bit. Size-wise, he's pretty lean. You know, I guess we'll have to see what happens. If he can get to 6, I have an idea he's going to go 13, but I guess once the season comes, we'll see.
Yeah, I would say just some feedback I've gotten in the last few days. Might have a few changes with the Woodford County lineup in their weight classes, so be something to look forward to in the next month or so as we make the next update that we make. Maybe some shifting for Woodford County guys.
I think Bender at 2, if he can get back to 6, he is a monster. I mean, we watch him grab a hold of kids, and it's unreal. So if he can get back to 6, if Tylen goes up, he's going to be tough to beat. He will be large at 106. I think you have Blake Roth in the top 4. I think he'll finally be a true 106 pounder. I imagine he will come down. Miller would probably be the guy. I've seen a lot of him this year. I believe he has definitely improved. I think he will be right there in the top. And then you have Nate Wheeler coming up, 8th grader, going to be a freshman. transferred, or not even transferred, is going to St. X. He will probably be in that mix somewhere. Regardless, he's probably going to keep it close with the majority of those guys he wrestles. So I think 106. Tylen's going to be the big question mark there. If he can get to 6, I don't know. I believe he's 15, 17, something like that. We'll see what happens with him.
Yep. Okay. 113, top 4 guys right now: Michael Maddox from Harrison County, Tanner Yenter, Kagan Wallace, and Brandon Miller. Maddox, a couple times state placer, looked really good at state tournament last year, so that gets him the top spot right now. Tanner was wrestling 106 in Fargo, didn't make weight on the second day, so that's was kind of our indication to maybe move him up. If he was pretty lean there in Fargo, so I'm thinking looking 6 months down the road, he's probably going to have to be a 13-pounder. He's growing. Wallace is one I'm not sure about. I don't know that he is a necessarily big kid that needs to go to 113, but I know his younger brother we have ranked at 106 is pretty good. And I'm just making a guess here that he's going to move up to 13 to make a spot for his younger brother to get in the lineup. And then seeing a little bit of Brandon Miller this summer. Looks pretty tough. He's been working pretty hard, so I would expect him to be right there near the top with all those guys.
I would probably add Castellano. If he can get to 13, he's made some pretty big strides this year. I think another kid I've heard about, I haven't seen much, Aaron Brossart coming in at 113. He is 21 now. I would imagine, I know he's doing some work at Spatola's. I saw him at the Michigan tournament. He gets to 13. I imagine he'll climb up the rankings as well. And then, of course, we have Husseini. By the way, that's the coolest name I've ever seen on these rankings. So we'll see what happens to him. So, all right, I guess that brings us to 120. There's some debate here. One, if these guys are going to be at this size. As of now, we have Saul 1, we have Ryan Moore at 2, Brady Wells at 3. I guess that's going to be a question if all 3 of those guys end up there. I haven't seen Brady in a while, and I haven't seen Saul. I see Ryan all the time, so I imagine if those 3 guys stay at the top, it's going to be, it's going to be a tough one. I think last year Saul had a win over Ryan at the Raider Rumble. I think that was the only time they had wrestled last year. So up to that point, I believe Ryan had some wins over that. So, and then I know between Ryan and Brady Wells, it's always been a pretty good battle. So, it'd be interesting to see where those 3 guys fall, if they all 3 go in that weight class. Moving down the list, I'd probably have to say Tyler Stork is one of the most improved guys I've seen. I think as of now, he's 11th. I'm not ready to bet paychecks like I've heard people do, but I would guarantee he's going to be in the top 3, top 4. I mean, I think he'll be up there depending on how the draw goes. Size-wise, I imagine he'll get to 20, but like I said, all these weights could shuffle around, so I think he ends up moving up. Austin Cook is a pretty big kid. If he gets 120 there, I think those are probably your top 5, 6 guys in that weight. So, and we also have a note here of Yost. Yost will be an 8th grader, I believe, wrestling for Woodford County. I've heard that, he's going to go 6, Tylen's going to go 13. We have him at 20 now. I don't know if, Hurst drops down, he gets to 20. There'll be some shuffling there, but just thought we should mention that.
Okay, now to a very, very interesting weight class, 126. We have Bryce Sheffer, number 1, Logan Erdman 2, Zane Brown 3, Tucker Hurst 4, and I'll even throw in Clayton Hansen, number 5, coming back from a year off with injury and transferring schools to St. X. This is a tough one with Sheffer and Erdman, 2 state champs. Could those guys wrestle 10 times. Who knows what the split's going to be? It's probably going to be pretty close. Logan's definitely one of those kids when he's on his A game. It's hard to imagine anybody beating him. But Bryce is one of those kids that he doesn't lose at the state tournament. He pretty much has been successful his whole career. So it's tough to bet against him. He's a 2-time state champ, so he gets the spot at number 1. Zane will be a pretty good sized 26-pounder. He's been growing and working a ton this summer, so he'll be right there with those 2 guys. Be interesting to see how he matches up with those older guys. He obviously gave Sheffer a tight match at the state tournament last year, so Zane's another year older, and I guess he's going to be ready to go with any of those guys. As you just mentioned, Woodford County guys, who knows where Hurst will be. He could be here at 26, he could be at 20. I don't know. What's some stuff I've heard on his weight, he could be 138, who knows. And then it'd be interesting to see Hansen, when he comes back from his injury. Is he going to come right out 100%, or will it take him some time to work back into shape? And will he be the same tough kid we remember from a couple of years ago?
I'd like to add to the Hansen. I saw him about 2 weeks ago in a practice room, and he was actually looked like he had a few issues with the shoulder. I don't know. I'm assuming he's cleared to wrestle. I don't know if it's going to take him a second to get back into it. Is he going to worry on the shoulder? I'm not for sure, but if he gets back in shape and he's good to go, he's a handful. I believe that he is actually transferring, going to St. X. I think with the departures of Joe Burrows, everybody likes Joe, unbelievable guy. He is going to transfer to X. I would like to circle back to the Sheffer Erdman. I don't have my bird suit, so I refer to Logan as the Erdman, the Birdman. I think we've debated on this one. I think that the only question, between the two, I'm a big fan of both. I'm fortunate enough to have Logan at my house, rolling around with, my knucklehead. And if Logan can get to 26, I'll have to give the nod to him. But Jason made a good point in the state tournament. Sheffer knows how to win. I've seen Sheffer down in the state tournament 4-1. Bryce, you didn't sweat. You were just like, you know what? I've done this 1,000 times, and I think when looking at these matchups, I really try to think, man, what are the matches I want to see? And that's a match I would enjoy watching. I think both those kids are unbelievable wrestlers. If they both make 26, I'll have to go with Logan, and he's going with Bryce. So it'll be interesting to see if, for one, they both go there, and then at the end, who ends up, winning that match. And then the last part of that would be, I've been trying to kind of put down sleepers, and I like Cody Houston. He gets to 26. I saw him the other day actually at the movies, and he looked nice, healthy. I know he's spending a ton of time at Moran's with Logan, so we'll see. I think he did well in the regional tournament. He went to the state tournament. I saw him moving a little further than he did, but I think that this year, maturity has kind of set in for him, and he should be a force at 26.
And one last thing there, just back to Fargo reference, Sheffer did make 26 there. I saw him come in my room to check his weight about 8,000 times, and he seemed to make it okay. So I don't know. 26 is going to be too big of an issue. Logan, I'm not sure. He wrestled 32 there, and so I'm not sure You know, did he wrestle 32 because that was the easy thing to do, or did he need to be 132? So we'll see how he is when he gets down to 26, if that's a tough cut for him.
Yeah, I think next time we do this show, I'm probably going to have Logan come over and see if he'll step on a scale for me. And we'll.
We can't tell him ahead of time.
Yeah, and we'll
secretly bring in the scale.
Yeah, so we sit and laugh about it, but both those guys, they're absolutely incredible to watch. So hopefully we'll get to see that matchup.
Be fun to watch.
And we'll see what happens. 132. This is one that's interesting. I think last year we had a lot of tough guys, 32, 38, those two weights last year. Some of those kids are still back. I think the big question, we have Duncan at 1, we have Chance Collins at 2, Jordan Monroe at 3, and Joey Roberts at 4. Even when you get down 6, 7, 8, there's still some top guys there. I think the first question will be, where does Duncan go? Now, I get to see Duncan 2 or 3 times a week. I've heard 32, I've heard 38. I've got texts saying, I talked to his dad. His dad says he's going 38. I see him registered at Hoosier Preseason Open at 129. I don't know what happens with him. I think he's good enough to win a title any one of those weights. I believe he is an absolutely solid wrestler. I guess we'll see what happens. I think with Joey Roberts, I've heard he's been as big as in the 150s and that he's going to cut down to 32. And then I also heard Torgensen was going to drop down to 32, which I don't know how the dynamics will work there with Kevin Vasquez at 32, right? Angel at 38, which we're saying he's going to be at 45. So we'll see how that plays out. If Torgensen can get to 32, he will be a big kid. Finally, I think Holden, I'll be interested to see what Holden does this year. He was a state placer the year before. Last year, had a tough draw in Region 6 with the 132 weight class. It was loaded with kids. He got bumped out, didn't qualify this year. I'm kind of curious, see how he'll come back. He's a solid kid. I'm imagining he's going to be at 32, maybe 38. I know Krebs is out. So that's going to free up some spots. I imagine they'll get Lily in the lineup, and we'll see what happens. So,
yeah, there's going to be a couple of interesting things. I think with Keegan, Trinity obviously is one of the contenders for a team title. I don't know that Keegan needs to dictate his weight class based on their roster, so he's got a little more flexibility. But I would pretty much guarantee his descent plan will allow him to go 26. I'll go on record and say it. He's gonna get his descent plan and be able to wrestle 26 at some point. So that'll be an option. Logan, similarly, I think he can pick his weight class, and the lineup's not really going to be impacted too much. Sheffer, on the other hand, is probably going to need to work within their lineup. I think that happened a lot to those guys last year.
Sure.
So that could be interesting to see how that plays out. And same thing with you're talking about the Campbell County guys. Who knows? It probably, I hate to say helps, because it definitely doesn't help the team to have Brad Krebs out, but it probably does help fit certain kids into the lineup. But I'm sure that they'll be trying to shuffle guys around and figure out what's the best lineup for them for the long run.
So we could agree on one thing, that I would bet on this, that Logan Erdman, Bryce Sheffer, Keegan Duncan, and even throw AJ Bender in there, I guarantee those 4 guys aren't at the same weight class. There's no doubt in my mind. So we can shuffle around, and this guy's going to go this guy's going to go that. Those guys are going to put themselves in the best position to win a state title, in my opinion. Now, some guys, a team factor will play into it, but I would almost guarantee that those 4 guys will not be in the same weight class. I would think. I could be wrong. All right, where are we at?
138.
138. We have Trent Johnson at the top spot. I think there was some debate there. Trent had some big wins last year. He had a couple losses, and that whole weight class, one guy beat one guy beat the other. I think with Trent, we had some debate here, but I believe we got it right. At least from what I've seen this offseason. I've been around Trent a lot. I've seen him in a lot of tournaments. You also have in there Brandon Leak. I think with him, he had an unbelievable state tournament. For one, he's a monster of a kid. I think there'll still be some question if he'll be at the 38-pound weight class. I could see him sneaking up to 45. I think the only advantage that we have with Trent and Leak is Trent had a couple wins over him last year, and they wrestled together their entire life. So I think they kind of know each other well. You have AJ Bender in the mix. AJ, he's almost the same as Keegan. Is he going 38? Is he going 32? You know, time will tell on that. I know that AJ is a very talented kid. He's a two-time middle school state champion, two-time high school placer, three-time high school placer, right? Yeah, because he took third his ninth grade year, wasn't it? Ninth, he took three. Yeah, so he's a three-time. We'll see where he goes. Dallas Miles, I saw him for a little bit this summer. I know he's battled a few injuries, but come season time, if he's healthy, I imagine he's right in the mix up there. Spar. So we have Brian Spar. We're kind of playing with that. We moved him up to 45, thinking that Lily would come in at 38.
No. We
Holden
assumed Krebs at 32 and originally and Holden 38.
We have Nick Wise up there. Nick has made some huge gains. He was dealing with an injury all off season. He got cleared about a month ago, and he's hit the mats running. And it should be the same mess again at 38. And you know, a lot of these guys, one could beat another one on any given day. So we'll see where those guys fall.
Yeah, and that could even another lineup issue that could get that much more complicated. Talked about Lafayette's guys. With Torgensen, Vasquez, that could be, you know, either Kevin at 32 or Torgensen at 32. One of them at 38, the other at 32. Angel could be 38, 45, and you know, those other guys have to bump up to 45 if Angel drops down. So just have to wait a couple months to probably know how that's going to shake out at 38.